Welcome to Sleepy Lore. Tonight we tell the story of Prometheus, the titan who stole fire from the gods and gave it to human beings, who paid for that gift with an eternity of suffering, and who did not regret it. A story about what it costs to care, about defiance and endurance and the strange relationship between punishment and meaning. Allow yourself to settle in, breathe slowly, and let the story carry you. Before there were gods on Olympus, there were titans. They were older than the gods, older than the arrangement of things as they are now. They were the children of Uranus and Gaia, of sky and earth, born in an age when the world was still finding its shape, when the boundaries between things were not yet settled, when what was possible and what was impossible had not yet been clearly sorted into their proper places. The Titans were enormous forces, not persons exactly, not personalities in the way the gods would later have personalities, but something closer to principles, powers with names and faces, the embodiment of forces so fundamental that the world had to have them before it could have anything else. Among them was one who was different. His name was Prometheus, and his name meant forethought, the capacity to see ahead, to understand consequences before they arrived, to know what a thing would lead to before it had begun. In a family of immense powers, this was his particular gift. While others acted from strength or appetite or the momentum of their own natures, Prometheus thought about what would happen next. He saw the shape of things before they took their shape. This made him unusual among the Titans, and it made him, in the end, unusual among anyone. The war came, as it had to come. The Titans and the new gods, the Olympians, the children of Cronus and Rhea, who had been born into a world their parents tried to hold and failed, went to war for 10 years. The Titans had age and power. The Olympians had thunder and lightning and the kind of hunger that only the young possess, the kind that has not yet learned to make peace with limits. Prometheus watched this war carefully. He thought about what it would lead to. He had the gift of forethought, and what his forethought told him was this: the Titans would lose. Not because the Olympians were stronger, not because they were more deserving, but because the shape of time was bending in their direction, and the shape of time is a thing that cannot be fought, only understood or failed to understand. He tried to explain this to the other Titans. They did not listen. The Titans were proud in the way that age makes things proud, certain of themselves because they had always been certain of themselves, unable to imagine a future that looked substantially different from the present they had always known. So Prometheus made a decision. He would not fight against the gods. He would go to their side and bring what he could bring, and see what might be preserved in the new world that was coming. His brother Epimetheus came with him, Epimetheus, whose name meant afterthought, the one who understood what had happened only after it was over, who acted from impulse and realized the consequences later. They were opposites in this way, the two brothers, and where Prometheus saw the future with uncomfortable clarity, Epimetheus lived fully and sometimes helplessly in the present. The Olympians won, as Prometheus had foreseen. Zeus became the ruler of gods and men and the order of the world. The defeated Titans were bound and imprisoned in the depths of the earth, in Tartarus, where the light did not reach and the weight of everything above pressed down on them without end. Prometheus was not among them. He had chosen correctly, or at least strategically. He stood in the new world, under the new order, free, but watching, always watching, with his gift for seeing what others could not yet see. He had made humanity. This is one version of the story, and it is the version that carries the most weight. Prometheus and Epimetheus had been given a task by the gods after the war, to go to the earth and to equip the creatures that lived there, to give each living thing the gifts it would need to survive and thrive. Epimetheus asked to do the work himself. He was enthusiastic, as he always was, generous and immediate in his giving, pouring gifts out with the spontaneous warmth of someone who loves giving, and does not think carefully about what he has to give. To the lion he gave strength and predator's instinct. To the bird, wings and the hollow bones that made flight possible. To the fish, the seamless motion through water that requires no thought. To the turtle armor, to the rabbit's speed, to every creature that crept or swam or flew or ran, Epimetheus gave something that fit, something that suited, something that would let that creature occupy its particular place in the world with what it needed to hold that place. And then he was done, and the gifts were gone, and Prometheus came to see what had been done, and found, standing in a field without armor or wings or claws or speed or any particular capacity at all, the ones who would be called human beings. Epimetheus had run out, he had given freely and without calculation, and there was nothing left. And these creatures, who stood upright and looked at the sky with eyes that seemed to be searching for something, had nothing to protect them from the cold, nothing to help them compete with the animals that surrounded them, nothing except the strange quality of their attention, the way they watched the world as if they were trying to understand it, the way they seemed to want not just to survive, but to know. Prometheus looked at them. He thought about what they were. He thought about what they would need. And he thought about the particular quality of attention he saw in their eyes, which was, and this he understood immediately, with the clarity that forethought gives, the same quality that was in his own. They were creatures who could think about the future. They were creatures who could learn. They were creatures who were, in some essential way, like him. He went to Olympus. Fire was a divine possession. Not a secret exactly, the gods had not hidden it carefully, had not imagined that it needed to be hidden. It was simply theirs, part of the order of things, part of the arrangement of a world in which gods were gods and humans were mortal creatures who lived in the cold and the dark and managed as they could. But Prometheus had seen the future. He had seen what human beings could become if they had fire, not just warmth. Though warmth mattered, warmth was survival. Warmth was the difference between a night that could be endured and a night that could not. He had seen past the warmth to everything fire made possible, the cooking that made food safer and more nourishing, the forges where metal could be shaped into tools and weapons and shelter frames, the pottery that could hold water through a dry season, the light that pushed back the dark and made the night hours available for thought and craft and the kinds of conversation that only happen when the day's labor is done and there is still time before sleep. He had seen what fire would mean. He saw all of it all at once, the long chain of consequence stretching forward from this single act, and he understood what he was about to do. He was not confused about it, was not under any illusion about the cost. His gift was forethought, and forethought does not protect you from making difficult choices. It only makes those choices completely clear. He lit a torch from the sun, or from the forge of Hephaestus, depending on the telling. He carried the fire down from Olympus, hidden in a hollow fennel stalk, the way someone carries something fragile and important, carefully, aware of what they are holding and what will happen if it falls. He brought it to the humans who stood in their fields in the cold and the dark. He gave it to them. Zeus saw. And the response of Zeus to what Prometheus had done tells you something important about the nature of power. He did not take the fire back. Some things, once given, cannot be ungiven. Fire teaches itself. Fire spreads from hand to hand and cannot be untaught. The knowledge of fire, once it exists in the world, is the kind of knowledge that the world will not surrender. Zeus understood this. What Zeus could do was punish. He thought carefully about how to punish Prometheus, in the way that someone with a great deal of power and a genuine anger thinks about punishment, which is to say with creativity, with patience, with the intent not merely to cause pain, but to cause the particular pain that fits the particular crime. Prometheus had given humanity a gift they were not supposed to have, and he had done it with forethought, deliberately, knowingly, with full understanding of what he was doing, and what it would cost. He had not been deceived. He had not made a mistake. He had looked at the situation clearly and made a choice, and the choice had been defiance. The punishment Zeus designed was this: Prometheus would be chained to a rock on a mountain at the edge of the world. Some said Caucasus, the great chain of mountains between the Black Sea and the Caspian, where the wind came in from all directions and the rock was bare and cold. He would be chained so that he could not move, could not walk, could not turn away from what was coming. Each day an eagle would come. The eagle was enormous, sent by Zeus himself, or perhaps was Zeus in another form, the precise details varying between the tellings, but the essential fact remaining constant. It would land on the rock, and it would eat Prometheus's liver. And because Prometheus was a titan, immortal, his body would heal overnight. The liver would regenerate. And the next morning, the eagle would come again. Not once, not twice, not for a season or a year or a span that could be measured with any hope of its ending. Every day, for as long as Zeus decreed it, which was, according to most of the stories, forever. Consider what this punishment was designed to do. It was not simply pain. Pain alone would have been simpler. Zeus had other options: darkness, isolation, the weight of mountains, the silence of Tartarus where the other titans had been sent. But he chose this particular architecture of suffering, and the architecture was deliberate. The liver regenerates overnight, which means Prometheus wakes each morning restored, and then watches the eagle arrive again. Each day is complete in itself. Each day contains the entire experience: the approach of the eagle, the attack, the hours of agony, the slow descent into a kind of exhausted peace as the sun sets, and then the night, and then the healing, and then the morning. And then it begins again. What this punishment attacks is not the body, which heals. It attacks time. It attacks the relationship between suffering and hope that makes suffering endurable in ordinary life. The understanding that this will end, that the worst will pass, that tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow is never different. Tomorrow is always the eagle. Tomorrow is always the rock and the chain and the sound of wings in the morning air. Zeus had designed a punishment that turned the gift of forethought against the one who possessed it. Prometheus could see the future, but the future he could see was more of the same. The future was the eagle. The future was the rock. The future was an endless repetition of today, stretching forward without horizon. He did not break. In Aeschylus's play, the oldest surviving account that attempts to give Prometheus a voice, he is not silent on the rock. He speaks. He speaks at length to visitors who come to observe his punishment, the daughters of the sea who drift up on the wind and hover near him in something between curiosity and sorrow, the god Hermes, sent by Zeus to extract the secret Prometheus is keeping, the wandering Io, another of Zeus's victims who comes to him in her own torment. He speaks to all of them. He is not broken. He is not subdued. He is angry and clear, and he does not soften what he says about Zeus, or about what has been done to him, or about why he does not regret what he did. He calls his suffering by its right name. He does not construct a story in which things are better than they are, but neither does he collapse under the weight of them. This is what endurance looks like when it is genuine. Not serenity, not the absence of pain, but the refusal to be made false by pain. This is the part of the story that the Greeks returned to, generation after generation, in plays and poems and philosophical texts and the quiet conversations people have at night when they are trying to understand something about endurance. Why did he not simply recant? Why did he not simply say, "I was wrong. I should not have done it. I give back the fire. Release me"? Some versions of the story suggest that Prometheus held a secret, that he knew something about Zeus's fate, something that forethought had shown him about the future of the king of gods, and that this knowledge was his only remaining power, that he kept it as a kind of leverage, a future bargain, a reason Zeus could not simply destroy him but could only chain him, because there was something Prometheus knew that Zeus needed. But this practical explanation does not satisfy because it misses what the story is really about. Prometheus had given a gift. He'd given it freely, knowing the cost, to creatures he saw as deserving of what he had to give, and the gift had worked. Somewhere below his mountain, the humans were warm. They were cooking food over fires that crackled in the dark. They were shaping metal and firing clay and sitting around flames in the night, talking to each other about things that mattered. The fire was doing what fire does. The gift was alive in the world, and that meant the punishment, however terrible, had not undone what he had done. The eagle could eat him every day for eternity, and the fire would still be burning on the plain below. He had changed the world, and nothing that happened to him afterward could change it back. There is a kind of defiance that is not stubbornness, not pride, not the inability to admit error, but the clear-eyed recognition that what was done was right, and that suffering for it does not make it wrong. Prometheus had not made a mistake. He had made a choice, fully informed, with complete understanding of the consequences. The consequences were terrible. The choice had still been the right one. He endured. He kept his silence on the rock or kept talking. The plays disagree on this too. And the eagle came every morning, and the night came every evening, and the world kept turning below him, and the fires the humans had lit from his fire kept burning. The end of the punishment came not through Zeus's mercy, but through a bargain. Heracles, the great hero, the son of Zeus, the man who had been set impossible tasks and completed them, who had gone to the edges of the world and beyond them, came to the mountain on one of his labors. He saw the eagle, he killed it with an arrow, he broke the chains that held Prometheus to the rock. There are different accounts of what happened next. In some, Zeus agreed to the release as part of a larger arrangement. Prometheus revealed his secret, the thing he knew about Zeus's fate, and in return his punishment was ended. In others, Zeus chose to allow his son's intervention, turning what might have been defiance into something that looked from a certain angle like permission. What matters is that Prometheus was freed. He walked away from the mountain. He carried the marks of his chains and the wound that never quite finished healing, even as it healed again each night, and the memory of how many mornings he had watched the eagle come from the east with its enormous wingspan darkening the sky above him. And somewhere in the world below, the fires were still burning. They had never stopped burning. They had spread, over all the time he had been on the rock, to every corner of the world that humans occupied, passed from hand to hand and generation to generation, carried into new territories, used to make new things that Prometheus had not even imagined when he first carried the flame down from Olympus in his hollow reed. The gift had outlasted the punishment. It had outlasted the chains and the eagle and the years on the rock. It was still in the world, doing what it had always done, pushing back the dark, making possible what had not been possible, allowing the creatures with the searching eyes to go on asking their questions and finding their answers and making their things and warming themselves and each other against the cold. What Prometheus is, in the end, is a story about the cost of caring. Not caring about abstract principles or the approval of power or what the correct position is on some question of theology or politics. Caring about something specific, a group of creatures standing in a cold field with nothing, looking up at the sky with eyes that were searching for something, who deserved more than they had been given. He cared about them enough to steal for them, to risk everything for them, to endure what followed without pretending it was not what it was, without constructing a story in which the suffering was fine or deserved or temporary. It was not fine, it was terrible. And he had known it would be terrible, and he had done it anyway, because caring sometimes means doing the thing you know is going to cost you everything. The Greeks returned to Prometheus for centuries because they recognized something in him that they could not quite name otherwise. The thing you recognize when you see someone choose to do what they believe is right, even though they can see clearly that the choosing is going to hurt them. The dignity that lives inside that kind of choice. The strange combination of sorrow and something like admiration. He is not a comfortable figure. He is not a figure who inspires the restful feeling of justice being done and wrongs being righted. He is the figure who reminds you that sometimes what is right and what is rewarded are not the same thing, that the world does not always arrange itself so that goodness is rewarded and cruelty is punished, that the eagle can come every morning for a very long time, but also that the fire keeps burning, and that the fire burning is its own kind of answer. There is something in this story worth carrying into sleep tonight. Not the defiance, or not only the defiance, but the understanding underneath it. That the gifts we give, the things we do for others at genuine cost to ourselves, the acts of care that are not convenient or comfortable or approved by the appropriate authorities, those things go into the world and stay there. They do not require our continued suffering to remain real. They do not become less true because we were punished for them. Prometheus chained to his rock is not a story of defeat. It is a story of a cost being paid, and behind that cost, somewhere below the mountain, the fires are burning. They have always been burning. They will keep burning. The thing you gave, when you gave it truly, is still alive in the world. Rest now. The night is quiet. Whatever cost you something today, whatever you gave, whatever you chose, whatever you paid for a thing you believed in, that is done, and it is real. And it is out in the world, doing what given things do. Let go of the worry about whether it was worth it. It was worth it. These are the things that endure. Breathe slowly, be still, good night.